Welcome back. Purchasing a home in this country is an important decision and, of course, an expensive decision as well. And many young people wonder if they'll ever be able to crack the Canadian residential real estate market. Let's bring in Ted Rechtshaffen. He's president and CEO at TriDelta Private Wealth. We're going to talk about what parents can do to assist adult children if they choose to get into the real estate market. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
First of all, how material is or how common it is that, I guess, for parents to function as the bank of mom and dad when their adult children, quite possibly in their 30s or later, want to buy a home?
Houses are expensive. The short answer is it's very common. I don't have exact stats, but I would, from anecdotally, 30, 40, 50% of first-time buyers are getting some financial assistance from family.
Right, and this would almost widen out the difference between the haves and the have-nots, because some parents simply, as much as they want to do that, simply can't do that. Let's assume that we've got a pair of parents here, a mom and a dad, who want to help their adult son or daughter buy a home. What are some of the things they should be thinking of?
So the first thing, it's kind of like being in a flight where they say put the mask on you first and then the kids. You got to make sure that you're going to be okay. So you may say, I think I can afford it, but A, can you afford it? You know, have you done a financial plan? We have a tool at TriDelta.ca. You can do some planning work online and sort of test what you could afford to give. But that's the first part. And then to sort of say, okay, come up with a number if there is a number. And then, you got to figure out some steps from there.
At what point do you think the parents should talk openly about this with their adult child? Right at the beginning, or only after they've looked at their own finances and decided, yes, we can extend some financing here?
Well, I guess you don't want to dangle something out and then say, oh, sorry, we can't do it. So you want to be pretty sure that you can do it before you have the conversation, but it's only fair if your kids are looking, if you're planning to help them out, that's part of their financing.
When
process.
Parents do help, is it usually in the form of a gift, or can it be in the form of a loan that gets repaid?
So it's both, but here's the tricky part. The tricky part is family law. So someone says, hey, I want to help my son. I'm going to give them a gift to buy a house, but they're married, and then the marriage splits up, and then half the gift goes to the daughter-in-law or ex-daughter-in-law. So often we tell people it makes sense to actually do a loan, because if it's an actual loan, then it can, in a callable loan, you can call it back and it's not part of the family assets of the child.
But if it's a loan, my understanding is, from reading your notes, it's got to be a loan. In other words, the recipient, your kid, has got to be making payments back to you on a regular basis, correct?
Yes. I think a long time ago you could get away with a loan, but now basically it has to be a real loan to be able to say, yes, this is not part of the child's family assets. It actually is something that can be called.
And who would make the call on that in the future? The Canada Revenue Agency or the courts?
It's the court, family law issue.
Right.
Yeah.
What other things, because I think this is something that occurs to a lot of parents. What happens, so many marriages, unfortunately, don't last for the duration. What happens if I give money to my child to buy a home and some years subsequent, the marriage breaks up? And you've already begun a portion of that answer. It's very likely that you'll have no choice but to watch the ex-partner walk away with half the equity in the home that was purchased. What other things should they be thinking of? Well,
there's always things like whether it's a prenuptial agreement or postnuptial agreement. There are agreements that you can put in place that acknowledge that this is a gift that is outside of the family law. It can be challenged, but you just want to be thinking about these things, and where it makes sense, talk to the appropriate person before, especially if it's a sizable gift. But the thing is, it's always hard to predict the future, right? Predicting the future with a kid's marriage, predicting a future with one kid who wants to own a house and one kid who doesn't really want or isn't able to own a house.
Right. I think a lot of parents are squeamish, if not more than that, about the possibility or the scenario of talking to their son or daughter who is completely in love with a person and has recently been married or is planning to get married, and saying to them, look, you need a prenuptial agreement because your marriage may fail. And so parents may back off that conversation.
Yeah.
They may shrink from that conversation.
Well, it's true, but I think it's a little bit easier when they're also writing the check.
Right.
They can force that or enforce that a little bit more. But the other issue is not every kid's the same, right? And also there's the issue of fairness. So, let's say you can afford to give, I'm making up a number, $400,000, and you have 4 kids. You don't want to give $200,000 to the first kid and then go, okay, we're running out for the rest of them. You got to sort of think longer term.
Okay, lots to think about. Thank you for coming in and sharing it with us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Ted Rechtshaffen is President and Chief Executive Officer of TriDelta Private Wealth.